And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're going to be looking at some impact players or X factor players that are going to have to step up in order for the Washington Commanders to get this playoff win on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're also going to be talking about the latest injury update around the Washington Commanders and how this is going to play a huge factor going into this game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so let's start with these impact players or X factor players. And so we know the story, with Jaden Daniels and Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. Like we know, some of these main players coming in. We kind of know that storyline. But I wanted to talk about some players that I think are going to have to step up. You might not necessarily hear a lot of stories around them in their role going into this game, but I think that they're going to be huge. And so let's start with Mikey Sainristil. And so shout out to Mikey Sainristil, as he became the rookie of the week. He joins actually Jaden Daniels, who's done this several times. You see all the weeks that he's done this, but he had a couple of pass deflections Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. And as noted, look, he has been an impact player for the Commanders, pick number 50. And I think that he's really turned into a real star for this Commanders defense, especially since he's had to shift and be on the outside and take those responsibilities, because we know coming in, he might have been the best nickel, maybe corner in the draft. But I think quiet as is kept, as Mikey Sainristil has had to move on to the outside and take on these responsibilities at corner, he's played extremely well. And it's really helped the Commanders' secondary tighten up, take away big plays, and really get more consistent here. And so he's been huge. And I think that he is going to be a real X factor into this game. And I think that he's really going to have to play a big impact, because I talked about Marshon Lattimore. And I think that if Marshon Lattimore is healthy, which I anticipate him being healthy, I think that he is going to make it difficult on Mike Evans. I think that even though you have Mike Evans coming in and he's on a little bit of a heater because this is 11 straight seasons of 1,000 yards, but I think that Marshon Lattimore, just the physicality is going to be there. Obviously, it's a bit of a rivalry between those two, with Marshon Lattimore being with the Saints and then, Mike Evans being with the Bucs. And I talked about just statistically, yes, Mike Evans has had great seasons, but against the Saints, it's been a real battle there. And so I expect for that to continue on, especially with it being in the playoffs. And so with that being said, I think that when you put pressure on an offense and you really take away that portion of the offense, naturally that's going to shift the offense to maybe focus on something else. And I think that means that they're going to maybe try to come at Mikey Sainristil. And I think that Mikey Sainristil is ready for this. And I think that the matchup there is going to be Mikey Sainristil versus Jalen McMillan. I think that is going to be huge, because Jalen McMillan, he's coming in. He's had 7 touchdowns in 5 straight games. He's also had 50 plus in 5 straight games. And he's been quietly the second best wide receiver behind Mike Evans. And so I think that Mikey Sainristil can make it difficult for him. And they actually have a little bit of a rivalry, because they played against one another in the national championship game. And yes, I know that Jalen McMillan did score a touchdown in that game. In fact, he had 6 receptions for 33 yards. But ultimately speaking, Michigan won that game 34-13, and Mikey Sainristil led the Michigan Wolverines in tackles with 8, and he had 6 solo in that game. And so, look, Mikey Sainristil is going to be huge in this game, and I think that if he's able to take away Jalen McMillan, now you put a lot more pressure on Baker Mayfield to really have to work, I think, inside the middle of the field. And not saying that he couldn't, it just means that he's going to have to rely a little bit more on his tight ends and things like that, which he has, I think, done a good job with. But I think he would prefer maybe working a little bit more vertical and kind of stretching the defense with Mike Evans, and then also to Jalen McMillan. And so I think that with Mikey Sainristil, if he's able to step up, this could be huge on, I think, the Buccaneers here. I think that that takes away a portion of their offense, and now we're starting to turn them into something one-dimensional. And I think that if we play well in the secondary here, now we can start to really push additional resources up front to stop the run. You maybe can put a player in position to be a spy as well on Baker Mayfield, excuse me, or Bucky Irvin. So I think that that is going to be huge with two of our corners playing well. And so next, I think another X factor or impact player for the Washington Commanders, it's going to be Zach Ertz. I think that Zach Ertz is going to have really a huge impact into this game, because right now, Zach Ertz is second on the team in targets. And he's also second behind Terry McLaurin in receptions, because he's coming in with 66 receptions, 654 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And I think that Zach Ertz has quietly really come on this last half of the season. And I think as a veteran, this is what you sign your veterans for. And especially Zach Ertz, who's been there before, we're going to need him to make some plays over the middle of the field. And with the defensive ranking of the Buccaneers, it suggests to me that the Washington Commanders are going to have a real advantage here, because the Buccaneers are not very good against wide receivers, nor are they very good against tight ends. In fact, they have the 25th ranking when it comes down to QBR rating. And so I think they're giving up a 96 rate there. And they're 25th as far as turnovers. And so they don't generate a lot of turnovers. And so that right there means that the defense is not necessarily optimistic back there. And so that means that you will have some situations where you can exploit their defense. And I really think that if you have Terry McLaurin and he's working the boundaries and really maybe drawing two, that means somebody else is going to have to step up. And I think that it is going to be Zach Ertz coming into this. And I think he can have a huge game. He's certainly going to be an impact for us. And I think that he can really take advantage of some of the middle linebackers and things that the Buccaneers have. And on top of that, two other additional impact players in the passing game, in my opinion, it would be Zaccheaus. I think Zaccheaus is coming in. He's had 50 yards in 3 straight games. And since Noah Brown has gone down, he's quietly moved up to the 3rd best wide receiver on this team. And another point to this is that I've talked about this before with Austin Eckler, but also with Noah Brown being out. Austin Eckler actually moves to the 4th best wide receiver in this game. And what is the significance? Well, if you go back to week 1, Austin Eckler led the Washington Commanders in receiving yards. It was 4 receptions, 52 yards. And so this team has gotten better since then. And I think that Jaden Daniels has gotten a lot better. I think that you saw Jaden Daniels really get outside the pocket, trust his athleticism a lot. You know, he threw for 184 yards, 7 yards in average. But this time around, you can expect a Jaden Daniels that is going to be able to run the football, but also look to pass the football down the field. He's grown with his progressions and things like that, which suggests that Austin Eckler and these guys are going to be able to slip out into the middle of that secondary. And I think that they're going to be some real impact players here. So next, I want to go ahead and actually shift focus into the latest injury report before we jump out of here, and wanted to go back over some of the players that I talked about just a video ago. And so look, Tyler Biadiasz, he was limited in practice today. So he's a limited practice. But we do get some good news, as Marshon Lattimore was a full participant today. So it looks like that he is trending well. We also have Cornelius Lucas was a limited participant in today's practice. Once again, we still have some time, but he was limited. We had a did not practice from Terry McLaurin. I expect him to be all right, probably just some maintenance. But I think that those are really some key takeaways thus far. We have Dante Fowler Jr. He was a DNP. Zach Ertz, a DNP for did not practice, and then also to Cleenan Farrell. But I expect for those players to probably start to ramp it up, just maybe some load management here. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you are thinking about this recent news with the injury report, and also to these impact players. Do you feel like, yes, Mikey Sainristil is going to be a huge impact for the Washington Commanders if they're going to pull this out defensively? And then on the offensive end, just with the fact that the Buccaneers really struggle in the secondary, yes, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, Zacchaeus are going to be huge or have to play a huge factor in this game for the Washington Commanders to win. Love to hear your thoughts. And as I always say, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.